The San Diego Chargers travel across the country on Sunday to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. BETDAQ currently has Pittsburgh installed as a 9.5-point favorite in this game. 42 is the total. We just learned yesterday that Ben Roethlisberger will be back. He will be starting for the Steelers this week. He's missed the last 3 games, of course, with those cracked ribs. In his absence, the Steelers' offense has looked absolutely lost. Now, they did pick up a road win last week in Baltimore, which was a surprise to nearly everybody, myself included. So they're hanging right in there. They're currently tied with Cincinnati for the final wild card spot in the AFC at 7-5. Big game for them on Sunday, obviously. And again, they're nearly a double-digit favorite, so they're expected to win this game. The Chargers have been absolutely awful lately. They've lost 7 of the last 8 games. They're now 4-8, totally out of it in terms of the playoff picture. And the story broke a couple of days ago. Now, it's since been denied by the San Diego ownership, but Sports Illustrated reported that San Diego head coach Norv Turner and general manager A.J. Smith will be fired after the season, and that decision has already been made. Even though there was a denial, I don't think this would surprise anybody, and quite frankly, it's warranted. Smith and Turner, they've been there for quite a while, and for the first several years of the A.J. Smith tenure, the team was getting better and better, but for the last 3 years, they've gotten worse and worse, culminating with this season. And as far as Norv Turner goes, I mean, he's an offensive guy, and the offense is what is really letting this team down this year. And it's a stunner. I'm shocked at just how inept the Chargers are on offense this year, quite frankly. I mean, this team's not talked about as a disappointment on the same level as, say, Philadelphia this year, but maybe they should be. Because outside of Philadelphia, because Andy Reid, we know, has been the longest tenured coach in the NFL, but he hasn't had the same quarterback that entire time, obviously. Norv Turner has had the same quarterback ever since he's been in San Diego. There's been continuity there. The same quarterback, Phillip Rivers, running the same offensive system for years, and that is rare in the NFL. And this offense was humming a couple of years ago, and to see it as bad as it is now, I know they lost their number 1 wide receiver, Vincent Jackson, in the offseason, but I don't think anybody could have guessed this offense would have been this bad. 26 in the NFL in total offense. When you look at the Chargers, they've played 12 games. Aside from their games against Kansas City and Tennessee, they played the Chiefs twice and the Titans once. Obviously, the Chiefs and the Titans are both terrible on defense. San Diego topped 30 points in games against the Chiefs and the Titans. Aside from those games, they haven't scored over 24 points one time this year. They just haven't shown any explosiveness on offense. Phillip Rivers, I was looking at somebody's, I don't remember who it was, Peter King or somebody like that, some respected NFL writer, his quarterback rankings, and he was still listing Phillip Rivers in the top 10. I believe he listed him 9th or 10th. What NFL has he been watching? I mean, if you're still listing Phillip Rivers in the top half of NFL quarterbacks, then you have in your mind the Phillip Rivers from 2 or 3 years ago. Threw 20 interceptions last year. He's on pace to top that this season. I don't know if there's something physically wrong with him. I've said throughout the year here on the site some that I think there could be something physically wrong with Rivers because he just doesn't seem to have as much on the ball as he used to. Seems to sort of be throwing off his back foot, just floats a lot of him up there. And so he turns the ball over a lot. He's been awful. The Chargers' offense has been awful. Their defense has actually been pretty good this year under first-year defensive coordinator John Pagano. Top 10 in the league in total defense, top 10 in rush defense. But they haven't been able to overcome that terrible offense again. They've lost 7 out of the last 8 games, and they will probably lose this week on the road in Pittsburgh. Now, this is a big, big number. 9.5. Listen, when I look at this game, I think Pittsburgh is surely going to win. I'd be stunned if the Steelers didn't win. Steelers have the number 1 ranked defense in the league. They're only allowing 259 yards per game. We talked about how much San Diego has been struggling on offense, but I hesitate to lay the 9.5 here because of the questions about Ben Roethlisberger's health. I mean, Roethlisberger had broken ribs. Apparently they were severely broken. The reason he hasn't been playing is because there was fear, according to Roethlisberger himself, there was fear that the aorta could be punctured if they were more severely damaged. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, and neither is Roethlisberger, but Roethlisberger seemed to think, he was under the impression that this was a serious injury. There were serious broken ribs. So it's not like he's magically healed. He's just well enough now to play. He's just feeling good enough now to play. So, listen, if Ben Roethlisberger were 100% healthy here, then I would have no problem backing Pittsburgh and laying the 9.5 points. They have everything to play for, and the Chargers, especially with the news that their general manager and head coach are going to be fired at the end of the season, the fact that they have no chance of making the playoffs, the Chargers really have nothing to play for in this spot. But the Steelers' offense, we've seen how bad they were without Roethlisberger. And if Roethlisberger is severely limited and severely injured, I mean, San Diego, as we mentioned, they have a good defense. 9th in the NFL in total defense, 7th in rush defense, 12th in points allowed, allowing just over 20 points per game. So if Roethlisberger is severely limited, then expect the San Diego defense to have some success slowing down this Pittsburgh offense. And if that's the case, if they're able to hold Pittsburgh to around 20 points, which is their season average. I mean, they hold every opponent to about 20 points per game. I believe they're giving up 21 points per game right now. Well, if they're able to hold Pittsburgh around that total, then all of a sudden 9.5, that feels like a big number. I mean, I know the Steelers' defense is great and the Chargers' offense is bad, but you're scoring 10 to 14 points in the NFL. I mean, that is shutting an offense down. If the Steelers were to hold the San Diego Chargers to 10 or 13 points, that would be shutting them down. And would that be enough for them to cover 9.5? Quite frankly, I'm not sure. I do want to mention that if you do like San Diego in this game, BETDAQ is a great place to place this bet because this line is Pittsburgh minus 7.5 all over Vegas. It is 9.5 on BETDAQ. I do lean towards Pittsburgh here, even with the questions about Roethlisberger's injury, as we said. Listen, I just don't see any way the Steelers are going to lose this game. And while I would be concerned laying a number like that, I think in all likelihood, Pittsburgh is going to pull away at the end and cover the 9.5 unless Ben Roethlisberger just cannot get the ball downfield. And if he were that hurt, I have a feeling that he wouldn't be playing because, quite frankly, Pittsburgh would probably be able to pull out a low-scoring, ugly win here, even if Charlie Batch were the quarterback. Now, I think under 42 is an interesting bet to look at because I mentioned how dominant the Steelers' defense is, mentioned how good the San Diego defense has been playing recently. Even if Roethlisberger were healthy, I think under 42 would have a chance. And, you know, if Pittsburgh is not able to do the things they're accustomed to doing on offense with Ben Roethlisberger under center, meaning if he's not able to get the ball downfield to Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, I think under 42 might be a good bet here. As a matter of fact, it might be my favorite bet in this game, with the exception, of course, of Pittsburgh moneyline. Pittsburgh moneyline is a sure winner. Of course, you might have to bet $100 to win 10 or 12 bucks. But I do lean towards the Steelers minus 9.5 here, and I lean towards under 42.